So, briefly, just as you know, Granite Staters are just sick and tired of paying 3 times more than people in other countries pay for the same drugs. It's the same thing we've spoken of for years. It's been a perennial problem. Big pharma makes billions of dollars while seniors and taxpayers in many ways just keep getting ripped off. Just last month, Big Pharma raised prices on 800 prescription medicines, and it's outrageous. But if you put it in context, Senator, if the consumer prices had risen as fast as drug prices over the last 15 years, gas would now cost $12.20 a gallon, and milk would be $13 a gallon. And that makes present inflationary pressures pale by comparison. So, as you well know, the Senate has a historic opportunity now to lower prescription drug prices, or the drug companies can win. As you well know, Medicare spends more than $135 billion on prescription drugs every year, and yet, Medicare is prohibited from negotiating with drug companies for lower prices. And allowing Medicare to negotiate would save seniors and taxpayers alike billions of dollars in the aggregate. So, obviously the push for Medicare to negotiate would help seniors, from inflation by lowering their drug prices and put money back in their pockets at a time when heck, they were dealing with inflationary pressures before the events in Ukraine, and who knows what that's going to look like on the energy front, which is obviously a big cost. But now, in addition to all of these pressures, Big Pharma is trying to scare lawmakers with misleading claims to stop them from allowing Medicare to negotiate for lower drug prices. So again, Senator, I know you know about this. I know how many times you've spoken on it. But if the Senate doesn't act, people will continue to have to choose between paying for groceries and paying for the medicines they need. And those are choices that Granite Staters, and I know you know this from your time in service to the great state of New Hampshire, but they do make that choice, and they make it all the time. So, our members, and we have a little, we'll end with, the voice of thousands of them for you, at least virtually. Our members have a message to our senators, and not only in New Hampshire, but nationwide, is don't let pharma win. They want you all to lower drug prices now. And with that, I just would turn the floor over to you, Senator. And again, thank you so much for your time on this very, very busy time for you.
Well, Todd, thank you so much for that introduction. I really, really appreciate it. Before we begin, I do want to just say a moment or take a moment to really address what's happening with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. It was an unprovoked and is an unconscionable invasion of another sovereign nation. And it's a direct threat, not only to the people of Ukraine, but to peace and freedom and security in every corner of our globe. So Americans, Granite Staters, need to stand united here. We need to stand united against Putin's aggression and in support of the Ukrainian people. And I know people who are participating in today's Zoom have probably already come together in ways to express their support and unity, but I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge how important this moment of time is for freedom-loving people everywhere in our country and in the world. I also want to thank AARP New Hampshire for hosting this press conference and for your work advocating on behalf of seniors in our state. AARP is the largest nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering older Americans. This mission is more important than ever as our country works to combat the pandemic and to rebuild our economy. And an issue that I hear about constantly from Granite Staters of all ages, but also AARP and seniors, is the urgent need to lower the skyrocketing cost of prescription drugs. Affording life-saving medications is getting harder and harder, forcing seniors and families to make truly agonizing decisions. I recently had a roundtable discussion about this issue. Advocates told me about seniors in our state who are rationing their medications in order to make them last longer. One senior had trouble affording her blood pressure medication. She was taking it therefore every second or third day so it would stretch out. She didn't know that as a result, her blood pressure was reaching dangerously high levels. And she ultimately had a stroke that was so severe that she is now living in a nursing home and will not be able to live independently again. That's unacceptable. Unfortunately, though, we are hearing more and more stories like this all across New Hampshire, and I know my colleagues are hearing them all across the country. Making matters worse is the fact that while millions of Americans struggle to afford their medications, the pharmaceutical industry is padding its pockets by raising prescription drug prices to some of the highest levels in the world. This system is deeply unfair and it needs to be addressed. I'm committed to continuing the work I've been doing to take on big pharma and really get change. I serve on both the Senate Finance Committee and the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, both of which are focused on reducing healthcare costs. On these committees, I have pushed legislation that will help address prescription drug costs and crack down on bad actors who keep these prices artificially high. And I want to take a minute just to outline some of these policies that will help lower costs. One area I'm working on is to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. This would leverage Medicare's buying power to directly reduce costs for seniors. I've also introduced legislation to allow the safe importation of drugs from Canada. This will help families all across the country secure more affordable prescription drugs, and it would incentivize American pharmaceutical companies to lower their prices. That's a win-win for consumers. In addition, last Congress, as a member of the Senate Finance Committee, I helped move forward bipartisan legislation to begin to take on big pharma and lower prescription drug prices. It was a big deal that a bill taking on the pharmaceutical industry and lowering prescription drugs in a meaningful way advanced out of our committee with a bipartisan vote. And it was unacceptable that Senator Mitch McConnell, who was the leader, the majority leader at the time, never brought this legislation to the Senate floor for a vote when he had a chance. We know that more progress is possible and that we can come together to get results that will improve our healthcare system. I worked with my Republican colleague, Senator Bill Cassidy, for example, to develop and pass a law ending the practice of surprise medical billing. That law is now in effect, and as a result, Granite Staters will no longer have to face the high costs associated with this truly absurd and unfair practice. So we know that we should be able to come together to do important work in this area. Now we need to find that kind of consensus again, since there is much more work to do to bring down costs, particularly related to prescription drugs. I'm going to keep working with my colleagues to lower costs and to ensure that people can get the medicine that they need to stay healthy and work and thrive and enjoy a dignified retirement. So I appreciate AARP's vital work on this issue, and I look forward to continuing to be your partner on this very, very important progress we need to make, which is really to finally allow Medicare to negotiate, allow the safe importation of drugs, and take the other measures we need to make sure that people can get their prescription drugs at an affordable cost. Thanks so much, Todd.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you for your work and for your time today. I don't know if we have any press joining us in this virtual press conference, but with the miracles of modern technology, we can keep it and push it out, and we shall do that. So perhaps the press will follow up with us afterwards. But without further delay, in a state of 1.3 million people or thereabouts, we have today the ability to present you virtually with signed petitions from 26,589 Granite Staters who are looking for relief from the crushing cost of prescription drugs. Probably not a surprise to you. And if we were able to bring them to you in stacks, there would be many boxes. But I suppose it's a more environmentally friendly solution. But nonetheless, if we could put them in the chat, the link in the chat, so it can be seen. That would be a link that your team can access. And there are names and addresses, and these are real people with real concerns, Senator. And I know you hear from them every day, and I know you're working for them. And I on behalf of AARP and our 220,000 members, sincerely thank you for your efforts there. And I would be remiss in not saying, please take care, given the course of world events now, what's happening. And these are unprecedented times. And so I think we all need to think about what's happening in Ukraine. And I think your words were spot on. And I wish they weren't, but they were. I mean, it's a terrible, perilous time.
Well, thank you, Todd. And look, I want to thank you for those last words too. We can get through this if we are united and we stand for freedom, and that's what we are doing. But with regard to the petition, I am really, really grateful. And I want all of the members of AARP who signed that petition and people beyond the signatories on that petition to know that when they raise their voices in this way, it really does make a difference. I know that my colleagues from around the country are hearing from their constituents as well. And I think that's why you saw in the last Congress, we made some progress in that bill I mentioned that did actually take meaningful action to lower the cost of prescription drugs. People just need to keep pushing. I'm going to keep standing up to Big Pharma, and we're going to get this done together. So I thank you for everything AARP is doing and to all your members. And I hope they will keep advocating because it's the way change happens.
We'll relay that message, and I suspect they will keep raising their voices and advocating, Senator. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Take care. Be safe, everybody.
Take care.